Okay, good morning, friends. How's everybody today? Today is officially the Chag of Yeshiva week. I guess Yeshiva week is Lashon Sagi Nahar. Yeshiva week, meaning there's no Yeshiva. I don't know. I guess that's the pshat. So what are you supposed to do during Yeshiva week? I guess you're supposed to be mechazik yourself so that you'll strengthen yourself for Yeshiva. So that's another pshat in Yeshiva week. One pshat is Yeshiva week is Lashon Saginar. There's no Yeshiva during Yeshiva week. But maybe a better pshat is Yeshiva week, you have to do during this week those things to make yourself successful for Yeshiva. So what are some of the practices that one could develop to be successful in Yeshiva? And this is not only for Bochrim in Yeshiva. Our whole life we're in Yeshiva. This world is a Yeshiva. Avram Avinu was Zakein v'Yoshev b'Yeshiva. Yitzchak was Zakein v'Yoshev b'Yeshiva. So the first thing you need to do is you have to be healthy. So Gemara tells us in Masechta B'Metzia and Daf Kuf Zayin Amud Beis. The Tanya Nami Hachi, Machla, Zumara, that's the gallbladder. Why is it called Machla? Because it strengthens the whole body. Another pshat, there are 83 sicknesses that are connected to the gallbladder. There are 83 different illnesses that could affect a person, and they're rooted in the mara. So how do you get rid of them? Says Gemara, very simple. V'kulan pas shachris b'melach, all of them, the morning bread with salt, v'kitoin shomayim, and a jug of water, mevat lasan, it's mevatel them. So there are 83 illnesses that could come to a person because that are connected to the gallbladder, and you could get rid of all of them with pas shachris, with bread in the morning. So the question is, do pancakes help? Do fruity pebbles help? Do frosted flakes help? What? And you need a melach, you need salt. So does that literally mean you have to dip your bread into salt? V'kitoin shamayim, and a jug of water is mavato it. The Gemara continues, Tan Rabbanan, Yud Gimel Dvarim Nemru B'Pas Shachris. 13 important attributes were said regarding the morning bread. Number one, Matzelas min hachama, it saves you from fever. Umin hatzina, and from shivers. Umin hazikin, and from wind. Wind is very dangerous. If you're walking down the street and the wind blows, it could send a shiver down your spine. It could cause a lot of harm. But if you eat breakfast, it protects you. Umin hamazikin, and from demons. The demons are all over the place. They could really bring about a person's downfall. The only way to defend yourself from the demons is by eating breakfast, eating bread in the morning. Umachkimas pesi, and it makes the fools wise. So sometimes you see people, and they're fools. And it's not their fault. It's because they didn't eat breakfast. If they would have eaten breakfast, they actually might have been smart. But because they decided to go to sleep during the breakfast time, or to fool around, they're not smart, because they didn't eat breakfast. Not only that, they'll win court cases. Some people have court cases, but they don't win, because they don't eat breakfast. Lilmay Torah, they'll be able to learn Torah. Ulalamed, they'll be able to teach. So it's a good thing I had a bite of that pancake before the shir. But they'll be able to teach Torah. Udvarav nishma'an, their words will be listened to. V'talmudai miskayim biyadai, and their learning will be sustained in them. Ve'ein besarai mave hevel, and they won't smell. People who don't eat breakfast, they smell. I could whiff somebody out in a second and tell if they ate breakfast or not. No, just joking. I haven't fine-tuned that sense. But their flesh does not sweat. Rashi says zeha. People who don't eat breakfast, they sweat v'zuham, and they become grimy. You see two people walking down the street. One of them, he looks clean. He looks fresh, even though he hasn't taken a shower in 8 months. The other one, he's full of scum and and dirt and mud, even though he showered last night. Why? Because the guy who looks clean, he ate breakfast. If you eat breakfast, it keeps you fresh. If you didn't eat breakfast, then you become slimy and grimy. And the Gemara says, "V'niskak le'ishtai," it helps for your marriage. Ve'enoi mesavel isha acheres, it helps a person control taiva. V'hoireges kina sheb'bnei me'ayim, it kills intestinal lice or bacteria. Okay, do any of the doctors have any medical confirmations about this? It's healthy to eat breakfast, right? V'yesh oimrim af moitzi es hakina. It removes jealousy. If you wake up in the morning, you don't eat breakfast, you're in a bad mood. So you see a guy, he has the new car, you're gonna be jealous. But if you had a good peanut butter sandwich, you'll be able to control it. Umachnes es ahava, and it puts love for your fellow man in your heart. So these are 13 important things that it says about breakfast. So now we're going to discuss, are you obligated to eat breakfast? Now, whether or not you're obligated to eat breakfast, even if you're not obligated to eat breakfast, you're still going to smell if you don't eat breakfast. This whole discussion is not, even if, let's say, their poskim say you don't have to eat breakfast, that's fine, you don't have to eat breakfast. It's just that you're endangering yourself from demons, and you're going to be a fool, and you're going to lose court cases, and you won't be able to learn, and you won't be able to teach, and no one's going to listen to you, and you're going to smell, and you have all kinds of problems. However, now let's discuss, that's up to you, okay? That's the given. The given is that if you want to have a good life, you need to eat breakfast. If you want to have issues, then don't eat breakfast. But the question now is, am I obligated to eat breakfast? You would think you're obligated to eat breakfast. If you could only learn if you eat breakfast, you would think it's a chiyuv to eat the breakfast. What does the Shulchan Aruch say? In Siman Kuf Nun Hey, the Shulchan Aruch says like this: Koydem sheyech lebeis hamedrash, before you go to the beis medrash, yuchal lecho pashachris, you're able to eat breakfast. Imhu ragel bai, if you're accustomed to it. Should you be? Now, does that sound like you have to eat breakfast? No, it sounds like you can eat breakfast.
Before davening?
After davening, before you go to learn. Before you go to the Beis HaMedrash. Oh, good point. So Menachem is saying, what do you mean, Koydem Sheich LeBeis HaMedrash? So Sif Aleph is, Achar Sheyatza Mi Beis HaKnesses Yelech LeBeis HaMedrash. V'yikba is lilmaid. Says the Mechaber, Koydem Sheich LeBeis HaMedrash, you could eat Pas Shachris. So that sounds like it's a good idea, but not that you're obligated to. So I would say, no. Of course you're obligated to eat breakfast. The question is, am I allowed to start learning before I eat breakfast? I'm allowed to. I don't have to eat breakfast before my first Seder of the day. However, I'm allowed to eat breakfast before the first Seder of the day, but I better eat something at some point in the morning. The Ber Halacha quotes the Torah that if you're going to eat between the Beis HaKnesses and the Beis Medrash, eat a little bit. Yochel az rak ma'at. The Mechaber says, should you accustom, right? The Lashon of Mechaber says you could eat breakfast if you're rugil to. Should you accustom yourself to? Yes. V'tov sheyargel bai. It's good to accustom yourself to eating breakfast. Now we're going to discuss how much should you eat. Does it help to eat mezainos? Does it help to eat what we call tavshil? In other words, does pas haba b'kisnin help? Let's say you have a Danish, or does a cooked dish work like macaroni? Does coffee, is that going to do the job to be yotzei pas shachris? Do you need to dip your bread in milk? And what should the temperature of the water be? Okay, we're going to discuss all of these things. Now the first is, you have a sheet. It comes from the interesting sefer that I once got called Toras HaYeshiva. This is the halachas for Yeshiva Bochrim. So I figured this would be a good, since it's Yeshiva week, we'll learn from the Sefer Toras HaYeshiva. In the Sefer Toras HaYeshiva, he brings on top, many B'nai Yeshiva don't eat breakfast before they learn. By the way, the Sifrei Chasidus say, what's the gematria of Talmud? Tuf is 400. Lamed is 30, Mem is 40, we're up to 470, Vav is 6, Dalet is 4, 480. The gematria of Talmud is Pas. I don't have any more. The gematria of Talmud is Pas. So instead of eating Pas Shacharis, you could also learn Gemara. That also works. That's what the Sifrei Chasidus say. But at Halacha, that's not what it's referring to. So he brings on top, many B'nai Torah are not noyeg to eat in the morning before they learn Pas Shacharis. It's good they should at least eat mezainos to be yotzei the chiyuv of Pas Shacharis. So where does this come from? Even though the Shulchan Aruch, as we read, is mashma, it's a good custom to have, especially for B'nai Yeshiva, because they're using their minds all day and there's no way to think and analyze and study if you don't have fuel. Ein kemach, ein Torah. Especially the Gemara in Bava Metzia said that if you eat Pas Shacharis, a person will be zoicha shetalmudai miskayim biyadai. Nevertheless, many are not accustomed to having a formal meal in the morning. So he brings, the Bach says in the name of the Mordechai, what is the shear of Pas Shacharis? What time should you eat it? The Bach says, we're not noyig to have it at all. And our Rabbeim are not noyig to encourage us to. Why? Because Pas Shacharis only consists of real bread that comes from whole grains and that come from a special place. And the Gemara is mashma, it has to be grain that never heard the voice of a chicken, and it never heard the sound of boats. The Gemara is mashma, it has to be a special kind of grain. And who could get a hold of this kind of grain? And if you're going to have it, you have to have it always. Therefore, we refrain, the Bach says. Okay, that's nice, but we don't paskin like a Bach. We go like the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch. The lashon of the Torah is, you could have Pas Shacharis if you're accustomed to it, which implies you need to be accustomed to it. Now, the Torah does say the correct thing is to accustom yourself to it, and the lashon of the Shulchan Aruch is, yoichal Pas Shacharis, you should eat it. And he brings that many B'nai Torah are reliant on the fact that because they're in a rush, they don't accustom themselves to it in the first place. He brings over here that, and Naftali showed this to me, in the Sefer Torah's Yeshiva, he quotes it from the Pri Megadim, but I have a feeling it's from the Eshel Avram, which is Eshel Avram of Buchach, that, first of all, could you be Yotzei with a Danish? The Pri Megadim says, that's Masha from Tosfos, you don't have to eat bread. That mezainos would constitute Pas Shacharis. Rabbi Tzion Abishol also says that macaroni would not work, meaning a tavshil of mezainos would not work. So it would come out, oatmeal would not work, and cake would work. The problem is, from a mystical standpoint, that might help you. From a health standpoint, it's probably the opposite. You're probably much better off eating oatmeal than you are eating a Danish. The Eshel Avram of Buchach concludes that if you drink coffee with milk, it has the maila of Pas Shacharis, because milk has nourishment, sugar has nourishment. And the Kaf HaChaim also says that if you're not able to eat bread, coffee with sugar, even without milk, helps at least a little bit to be meyashev the heart. So bottom line is, the Gemara says that Pas Shacharis gets rid of illness, and it helps you learn, and it helps you study, and it makes you smart, and it makes you not smell. So I would say, why take any chances? You know, you might as well, if you're trying to learn and you're able to eat bread, then follow the advice of the Gemara and eat bread and don't smell and be able to learn. If you don't have time to it because you're such a big masmid, then try to have mezainos, or at the very least coffee. But the best way to do it is the way the Gemara says it and the way it's codified in the Shulchan Aruch, Toiv sheyargal bepas Shachris. But to fast until later in the morning, that's definitely not a good idea. But if you take the Gemara literally, the Pas Shachris has many health benefits. So that's a good thing to take to heart during Yeshiva week, because if you start eating Pas Shachris, then your stay in Yeshiva will be more productive. Okay, I want to share with you something else as well. By the way, just to add on to 2 more points to the subject of Pas Shachris, that nowadays all bread has a salt in it, then you don't have to dip bread into salt. To be yotzei pas b'melach. There's no reason to dip bread into salt. The bread already has salt in it.
Especially bagels with salt.
Especially the salted bagels, right? Kaf HaChaim says that the water is good, that it should be hot water. And if somebody does not eat Pas Shachris, the Shevet HaLevi says in Chelek Dalet Siman Tezayin, you're not called a sinner. They were not misaking this as a mitzvah, as a separate mitzvah. It's an Eitzah Tova. It's a Hanhaga Yeshara, but it's not. One is not an Avarian if they don't follow this.